And now to the UK, where the Liberal Democrats have won the North Shropshire by-election, taking a seat the Tories have held for nearly 200 years. The winner, Helen Morgan, took the seat by nearly 6,000 votes, overturning a Conservative majority of almost 23,000. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson says he has to accept the voters' verdict and that he understands people's frustrations. Helen Morgan says the party is over for Johnson and punctures a balloon with his name on it as the Liberal Democrats celebrate. The poll came after a turbulent month for the Prime Minister, with intense scrutiny on lockdown parties in Downing Street last year. And joining me virtually from the United Kingdom to discuss this political twist is a journalist, Tetteh Kofi. Good to have you join us.
Pleasure. Nice to be with you.
So this is quite a shocking one, a surprising one for the Conservatives, but it is not the first. It is actually the second win for the Liberal Democrats, who have taken this is second stronghold that Liberal Democrats will be taking from the Conservatives. You remember some time ago they took the election in Chesham and Amersham, and people are wondering what's going on with the Conservatives.
Okay, there are two angles to this story. The first one is the premiership of Prime Minister Boris Johnson. The second one is the electoral fortunes of the Tory party, the Conservative Party. In terms of the Conservative Party, two wins by the Lib Dems do not mean a change of season or a change of sentiment across the country, because if it did, what would be happening would be that the party that was second placed at this by-election last time, being Labour, would not have been beaten into third place. If there's going to be a switch of sentiment, you would expect it to go from the Tory party all the way over to the Labour Party. That didn't happen. However, the real story is the way the media have portrayed this story about Boris Johnson. They're calling him things like, on the biggest circulating tabloid, the story read, "I voted Boris, but now think he's a clown." In other parts of that story, they called Mr. Johnson a grease piglet, i.e. a person who you can't get a hold of. It doesn't matter what you do to him, he seems to slip through your fingers. Then on the Telegraph, which is a major broadsheet newspaper in the UK and a natural supporter of the Tory party, they call this the bye-bye election. So as far as Mr. Johnson is concerned, even if the Tories are going to survive, the story is Mr. Johnson is on the ropes. He's in deep trouble.
And so you think that this was also because some people are calling this some sort of referendum on the Prime Minister. Is this really a referendum on the Prime Minister?
Well, it's got to be seen in that light. I mean, earlier this morning on the BBC, a leading light from the Tory party, that's the Conservative Party, was saying that it's 3 strikes and you're out. Well, he's already had 2. One of them was the problem with the Owen Patterson story, a Tory minister former minister who had to resign on account of being paid for making kind of lobbying requests on account of his private consultancies. And then there was another scandal which has blown up, which revealed that this time last year, the Tory party was holding a full-blown Christmas party when the rest of us in the United Kingdom, some of us were being fined for breaking social distancing rules, and we were asked to spend Christmas apart from our families. This has caused absolute outrage, and it led to the idea that Mr. Johnson is a person whose leadership you cannot trust because of all of these moral and ethical issues around the way he leads his party.
And just some days ago, we saw about 60, if not more, members of Parliament who were from the Conservative Party voting against his proposal to the proposal for a COVID pass in England. What does this mean for him? This is, like you said, again, this is a second strike. What does this mean for him? What sort of electoral value does he have now for the Conservative Party?
Well, you see, many people say that Mr. Johnson was brought in not because the Tory party loved him, but because he was a person who could deliver Brexit, and because he was a far more palatable candidate than Jeremy Corbyn, who led the Labour Party. Now, Brexit is in our hands. Mr. Corbyn is no longer leader of the Labour Party. The question then remains, what is the use and value of Mr. Johnson? All the way through, there's been a tissue of moral and ethical issues where you've had very senior politicians actually calling the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom a liar. Now, in other political states, that sort of thing may happen, but in the United Kingdom, it's very, very, very serious indeed. And it gives one the impression that he really needs to be considering his political position. There's one last thing I ought to add, going to the question of his personal ethics and so on. It seems as if, we know his party was fined for Mr. Johnson not disclosing the fact that his private flat in number 10, the official residence of the Prime Minister, and its refurbishment was paid for by Tory donors. Now, this is a complete break of the rules and regulations. You can't have private donors doing up the Prime Minister's house because you don't know how much in their pocket he's going to be going forward as the leader of the whole of the United Kingdom. So it is sad for Mr. Johnson that it looks as if this electoral loss, may be the straw that's going to break the camel's back. Don't worry, the Tories have got a majority of over 80 MPs in the House. So if Mr. Johnson goes, that won't lose him the election. However, it may help them to get back into the graces of a nation which is really tired of Mr. Johnson's, shall we say, peccadillos.
And we understand that with this loss, some members of parliament, conservative members of parliament, are now worried about their seats as well. Talk to us about what you think the Prime Minister can do, because how we can get out from this. Because we also understand that within the Conservative Party, there is now a talk of a summer election. Is there anything that Boris Johnson can do to get out of this situation?
You see, the thing, as I said before, Mr. Johnson isn't the natural leader of the Conservative Party. He was brought in under extreme measures to deal with Brexit and overcome Jeremy Corbyn. Boris Johnson is a person who has been raised with extreme privilege. He doesn't understand the pain of ordinary people. He is a hail fellow well met, a good time kind of Prime Minister. And at a time when we are all facing such dire restrictions, the British people, like all other people in every country around the world, are feeling the pain. They need to feel that the person who's leading their country feels their pain as well. And when he presents in a situation in which his ministers are taking cash to present questions to government officials, when it comes to the fact that private donors are doing up his private residence, when it comes to the fact that he is letting his people do a party at number 10, which he officially denied, the British people feel as if, no, certainly this person isn't the person to lead us forward. But I don't think that the Tory party at the moment is at risk, because if it were, Labour would have clawed back into second place. They were in second position at the last election in North Shropshire. They're now third. They've actually gone backwards. So I'm not sure that we can say that the Tory party is at risk. Not at all.
And by him I mean Prime Minister Boris Johnson has always been able to find a way out of situations like this. So we'll see how this plays out. Journalist Tetteh Kofi, thanks for talking to us.
Pleasure.